of November 1960. And then, and so the letter goes on.
Oh, immediately after the independence.
Immediately after independence, yes. He also says that he's sorry that I wasn't able to get there for the independence celebration. So I came the following year. But this was the invitation that came in November in 1960. And then it wasn't until January that I officially responded. And I said, it is good to have a letter from Nigeria, and doubly good that it should come from you, whom I remember very well. My mind quickly turned back, and I could see so clearly those brief days spent in Ibadan, visiting your home, walking and cycling through the marketplace, touring the university campus, talking with the nurses at the university hospital, and so on. I was not married at the time. when I was there in 1958, I had been there and had met Mudupwe and Dapo Wanapolo and others in the SCM there, because I was going to be working with the SCM in Canada, you see, and I was just going to begin my job with the SCM in Canada. And so I had said to them then that if there was ever the opportunity of coming to work with the SCM in Nigeria, I would love to do that, because I didn't want to be a missionary that would be controlled by the church from outside. You know, this was the era of independence and so forth, and Nigeria had to become independent from the churches as well as from the states, and so that became a struggle, but the Nigerian SCM was always independent. It was never colonized, and because Francis Ibiam, who was then Sir Francis Ibiam, had begun the SCM after he came back from Scotland. And I thought it was 1938, but it was around that time. So the SCM, when I went there in 1960, we were thinking that this was about the 21st or 22nd year of the SCM. Now it's celebrating its 75th anniversary. So it's so then I said, it is an exciting thought that I shall perhaps be working in Nigeria with you, or already know. And then I formally accepted the job. Then on February the 16th, 1961, I counted the privilege to reply to the invitation extended to me by the Nigerian Student Christian Movement to become its traveling secretary for a 3-year period. And by then I was engaged to be married. I said, my fiance and I gladly accept this invitation to come to give ourselves to this task. We both know the SCM and believe in its perspective. We are convinced that the Christian message must come alive in all institutions of higher learning. And this represents a comparatively small segment of the modern world, and so forth. And then I say, let there be no understanding, I'm not an expert in student work, nor am I an expert in anything. I have much to learn, and especially about the SCM in Nigeria, to say nothing about Nigeria itself. I look forward to Nigeria, learning to work effectively with the SCM, renewing old acquaintances, and making new friends. My hope is at the end of the 3-year period, mutual satisfaction might be shared by the Nigerian and the Canadian SCMs. The World Student Christian Federation at that time had just begun what they called an ecumenical assistance program, and that is they would enter into a contractual arrangement with SCMs in other parts of the world, and to see what they could do to help to facilitate the staffing and other needs. And so this was a tripartite agreement between the SCM of Nigeria, the SCM of Canada, and the World Student Christian Federation. And the SCM of Canada ended up, I think, paying my first year's salary there, and the part of the transportation to Nigeria from Canada. And then the SCM of Nigeria paid my salary beginning the second year to the third year. And then because it was also building the house, the SCM house at number 10 of Oshika Avenue, which is still there in the Bodhicha estate. I don't know whether it's still called Bodhicha or not.
It's still Bodhicha.
Okay. And and we lived there. My wife and I in the upper flat. We were the first family to live there, and then we rented the downstairs, and the money from the rent went to help to pay whatever needed to be paid for the cost of the house and so forth. And Dr. Olanian was the treasurer of the SCM then, and his father, their father, and Modupwe Odiye was the secretary, and Francis Ibiam, Dr. Ibiam was in the east, and so he was the president of the SCM, of the national body. And, so I spent a lot of time yesterday going through these papers. Some of the letters and so forth are, they're old and they are but they're in pretty good shape though. But a few of them I couldn't read because the ink blotted them out, and in many cases the copies that I have kept have been carbon copies, and so carbon copies sometimes get after they're squeezed together, what happens to them. But nevertheless, they're quite readable still, and so I got a whole box of them with all of this information and lots and lots of stuff, and then a lot of pictures that I still haven't. I know I have them, but I have not been able to follow. Yeah. Now this is some of the earlier pictures.
Closing this one.
This is a picture of myself that was me then,
Okay.
and my wife then. My wife passed away in 1995, and my present wife is my second wife. We were both widows, and but this is my wife Shirley. This is Modupwe, and this is me, and this was what's her name? I put it on it. Miss Asi Iso, a member of the Eastern Regional SCM Executive. And I don't. Miss Iso, yeah. And here's. I was very young. I was 20. I was 28.
28.
Then, yeah.
Well, the first time you went to Nigeria, how old were you?
The first time I went to Nigeria, I was 25. It was 3 years before that. And
What took you there the first time?
it was called the Operation Crossroads Africa. It was started by an African American Presbyterian minister, Dr. James Robinson, here in the United States, in New York City, in Harlem. And he started, this was modeled after the summer work camps of the World Council of Churches at the time. And he decided to put together a group of 60 students who were African Americans and white students to come to Africa. And for the first summer, the 60 students were divided into 5 groups and went to 5 different countries. And I was selected to go to Nigeria. And I wanted to go to Sierra Leone because at that time we had a connection between Nova Scotia, which is where I'm originally from, and Sierra Leone, because the first settlers, not the first settlers, but the returned slaves from the U.S. To Sierra Leone went, and they became part of the colony there in Freetown in 1787. And so I had that historical connection, and I thought it'd be nice to go to Sierra Leone to see the people there. But then I was selected to go to Nigeria, so I didn't get to go to Sierra Leone. I've never been to Sierra Leone as a result. So I went and spent 10 weeks there, and that's where, since I was going to be working with the SCM in Canada, I wanted to meet with the SCM in Nigeria. And so Modupwe was part of the Nigerian group that was sort of in charge of showing us around Ibadan and Lagos and helping and taking us on a tour of the country and so forth. And he was the secretary for the SCM, or I don't know if he was the secretary then, but he was teaching English literature at the Barton Boys Grammar School. And when we arrived there 3 years later, the SCM house was not yet ready, and so we lived for a month at on the compound of the Barton Boys Grammar School.
Where he was there.
He was
a teacher.
Yeah, he was a teacher, but he was living then in he had just moved, I think, to the Bodija housing estate too.
Yes.
His family, his mother and father, purchased a house, and he was still living at home with them.
I think he's still living there.
And he still lives there.
Yes,
exactly.
it's a walking distance from the SCM.
Exactly, yeah. And he had a brother and a sister, and none of them at that point were married. They've been married later. Anyway, I could go on. But those were, it's interesting. This is a picture of the meeting of the Christian Council, Nigerian Christian Council in Kaduna. And I don't quite know where in Kaduna it was. I'm in this, I'm way back here. So this is the Christian Council, and so I wasn't anyone to be in the front here. Here I am right there. And then this is me again in first visit to the Prince. It's called Prince Commercial Institute in Onitsha.
And who were the leaders at that time of the Christian Council of Nigeria? Those of them sitting at the front there.
I'm sorry that I don't have the names of the people here. But I do have the name of there's a Yoruba man who was the general secretary. I'm not quite sure whether he was general secretary or whether he was president. These are mostly just to give you an idea of, and everywhere I went to visit in later years, there would always be a group picture taken, and I would always be sitting in the front. Excuse me. This, for instance, the Christian Council of Nigeria, 1962, that's what it is, yeah. St. Peter's College in Kaduna. So that's the larger picture, and this is a smaller one. But still, I don't have the names of the people on the side of that. That's too bad. But this is the compliments of the SCM in Malaysia. President of the SCM was Shagun Abupati or something. That's a lot. Another picture. I've got a lot of pictures that were done in slides. You know, 35 millimeter slides. And I cannot find my machine.
Okay.
They're just little.
You put in the machine.
You put them in the machine, and you zip them. Yeah. And I've got many pictures like that, and I will have. But there again, the slides will not have the names of people, but yet they'll give you an idea.
Yeah, and some of the older
now this is
people like Oduyoye.
Yes.
Once he sees that, and we'll say it's this person.
He would be able to say. He'd be able to recognize, and Oduyoye would be able to recognize the people at the Christian Council as well.
Yeah,
many of them. Now this is Chris Groves, who was my predecessor as the SCM secretary, and she was the traveling secretary, and she was the principal of St. Anne's Girls' School in Ibadan. And St. Anne's was a very prestigious Anglican girls' school. Everybody wanted to get into St. Anne's. And Chris Groves had been there as a missionary she was a missionary from the Church Missionary Society from England. And she was the principal there. And my wife worked at that school for a year as a teacher, teaching religious studies when we decided that that would be the best thing. She traveled with me for the first 6 weeks and visited a lot of because she was active in the SCM in Canada, and she had spent a year in India and was active in the SCM in India, and had attended the World Student Christian Federation in Rangoon. And I don't know whether you ever knew the name Bola Ige.
Bola Ige.
Bola Ige, yeah.
Yes, very well known.
Yes. Yes.
He became the governor of Western. Yeah.
Yes,
He was my
West.
father's best man at his wedding.
Was he really?
Yes.
Okay.
They were very close.
I must have known that. Yes,
Yeah.
okay, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Bola was very active in the SCM as well.
Bola Ige.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
his wife became a judge.
Yes,
I should-
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And then he was killed, wasn't
Yes,
he?
he was murdered.
Yeah. Or murdered, yeah, exactly.
During the political, under Obasanjo's he was the minister of power.
I think the SCM wanted at one point that he would become the SCM secretary because he was so active in the World Student Christian Federation and so forth. And I met him in Canada because he was traveling with the World Student Christian Federation.
We believe that he was well trained by the SCM.
Yeah,
because
he was.
Organizing conferences and
Yes.
everything. He was not just a regular lawyer that came here to school and
Yes.
went back.
No.
So he represented the SCM in all those world conferences. So when he went back to Nigeria, even till today, when he was talking,
Yeah.
he could really present his case, whatever he's discussing,
Yes.
very, very eloquent, at a very high international standard.
And you're too young to have met him.
Oh, I met him.
Did you meet him?
Yeah,
Okay.
I met him.
Okay, right.
Because there was a time we went to Benin for a conference.
Okay.
And I was in that conference and I was coming back to Ibadan.
I see.
His father was there with his car. So Oduyoye was there, Modupe, Bola Ige was in the car, your father was driving, and I was the small boy sitting at the corner listening to all what...
Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Is that
So
right?
I knew him very well. I knew his house. And I was surprised they were able to get him to that dead end to kill him. Drove.
That was sad. That was very sad. Anyway, that just gives you a sort of a little bit of an idea of and this was a book, a small Bible study that I had developed. Because one of the things that the branches wanted and needed were materials. And what I did, I had boxes and boxes of books, but most of them were done overseas, and many of them came from England. Small books that could sell cheaply, and people could read them, people could study them. They would be on various issues and so forth. I have a number of them in my own collection, but I was never quite sure how effective they were. But yet, every time I would visit the branches, I would have this book display, and people could buy the books for a couple shillings and stuff like that. And then I put them back into the boxes, put them in my car, and go on to the next place. And it's interesting. I was told at that point there was 170 branches of the SCM, and that's what we had in our list. But it was constantly growing, and in the secondary schools, the teacher training colleges, there were 3 universities then, and Nsuka had just begun. I guess maybe 1962. I don't think it was there when I first went, or it might have been there in 61. But it was just beginning. And so I lost my train of thought. Anyway, maybe it'll come back to me.
You were distributing
Yeah, I was distributing the books, yeah. And so then I decided to do a Bible study that would be a way of, and I say at the beginning, how to, the person who's doing the Bible study doesn't have to know everything about the Bible. And it's part of the introduction there, and then give some directions of how to do a Bible study that we suggested, and then have a number of passages and a number of questions that people could get people to respond to these particular questions in order to get a discussion going. And I felt that a good Bible study would be one not where everybody would listen to one person speak and one person give all the answers, but yet they would work together at developing what possible answers might be to the various questions. They could come up with their own questions as well. So it's a simple kind of thing. But
I think that was what I meant when I went to the university also, whereby all our Bible studies were mainly discussion groups.
yes,
And ideas, information, questions will be brought forward.
right.
In this situation, how do you handle this case as a student? How would you respond as a Christian? How would you respond to your parents? So those were the type of discussions we used to have in
Yes,
Bible
yes,
study.
yes.
And I didn't know that was what you initiated at that time.
Well, that's it was widespread in the SCM. I think internationally, the way to do Bible studies, Bible was really central. But the idea was to try to relate the Bible to the present situation. There was a booklet that was produced by the Council, Nigerian Christian Council of Nigeria, and it was called Christian Responsibility in an Independent Nigeria. And I have a copy of that book, but couldn't find it yesterday when I was going through my thing. A lot of the things are still not unpacked, and but I have it, and we use that a lot in the SCM because in that time that was a key question. How could what was Christian responsibility going to be in an independent Nigeria? And that led a lot of people to say, well, first of all, the church has got to be independent itself. and the church was not independent. The Episcopal Church was run by the Lambeth Council, the Methodist Church, the Baptist Church was largely controlled by the Southern Baptist Convention here in the U.S. And the irony of that situation was that missionaries who were all white, but there weren't any black missionaries that the Southern Baptists would accept because it was very racist. And so that they were working in Nigeria and elsewhere, but anyone that they couldn't, the members of the Baptist Church in Nigeria could not become members of the Southern Baptist Church in the United States because of their color. And if they were to come to the United States, they would be refused membership. So that was an irony which only the Nigerians that discovered this. There was a Dr. E.O., I think his name was E.O. Downsy, D-A-H-U-N-S-I.
Yeah.
And he had a church in Lagos, the First Baptist Church, which was a big church there for Baptists. And he had studied in the United States for graduate studies and did a PhD in New Testament studies. And so he knew Greek and Hebrew very well. And his aim in life was to translate the scriptures not from English to Yoruba, but from the Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic from the original languages to Yoruba. And that was a task that still goes on today in many ways. Most of the Bibles in Africa have been translated from European languages. And so you have translations of translations, but you don't have the translation from the original languages. And so, but he unfortunately, in the late 60s, while he was working on this project, was killed in a car accident. And it was a great, great loss. He was probably only in his 50s. He was very energetic, and one of the few Baptists who really wanted to relate positively to the SCM. Because the Baptists, I'm a Baptist too, but there are Baptists that are very liberal, and there are Baptists that are very conservative. I'm the liberal side, and the liberal side meaning that you would view Episcopalians and Anglicans, Presbyterians and Methodists as Christians too. Whereas a lot of Baptists would say, you know, heaven is only going to be made up of Baptists. Everybody else is going to be denied entrance. So, because that's where. So the denominationalism was a real problem not from the Nigerian point of view. It didn't matter where one was, whether it was Methodist or Anglican or Presbyterian. The Nigerians could not make any sense out of the denominationalism, because the problems that gave rise to denominationalism were problems that took place in the Western world. And they would say that they are their problem, but not our problems. And even the Catholics. But yet, these people and these denominations maintained their separation in the African context, which the African churches had to struggle with. They thought that they could have a union very, very quickly after independence, and that's where the All Africa Council of Churches and the All Africa Council of Churches was formed at the same time as the Organization for African Unity. Organization for African Unity was the political organization to bring the states together, and Kwame Nkrumah and so forth would have been very active in that. And but alongside of them was the churches, the African church, wanting to have Christian unity by bringing together the All African Christian Council, All African Council of Churches, and that continues. Headquarters in Ethiopia, I guess, or maybe it's in Kenya. I'm not quite sure. And I went to their meetings in 1997. So anyway, I'm talking too much.
No. We wanted you to put all this in your chapter.
Okay.
You see, some of the things you are saying now, there are very few young people that know what happened, even about Christianity.
Yeah.
And how they related to the independence in Nigeria. And you know, books are written based on what you hear. I have heard from you. I can't write. I can't even put a sentence together. She has heard from you. He has heard from you. So there is nobody to pass on this information. And when the president of the Student Christian Movement of Nigeria came here, he called, phone calls that he would want all the SCMers to have a phone call discussion with him. And while that was going on, I said, I think when Kunle's father came here, he mentioned Professor Paris. And did I talk to him? I can't remember very well, but it was vague. But did he not mention Chinua Achebe? I think it's him. So if he was a professor in Princeton, I will somehow find him. So I went into the internet, and then gradually I went to the Theological Institute of Princeton, and I called over there. And the lady said, oh, we still have his contact. We will let him get in touch with you. So I said, well, there is nobody that would know the history of the Student Christian Movement better than yourself to write a chapter in that book. That was why I made all the phone calls to have contact with you. And at that time, I didn't know where Kunle was. So I said, well, I would like to speak to Kunle also. So that was the purpose. But from what you are telling me, all the information you have now is a very, very highly academic information.
Yeah.
And I'm very sure even the universities may not have that information now. I don't know how many universities will even keep records like this till today. How many university or theology institutes will understand how Christianity was before the independence and how it evolved to this day and how it related with the Western world and Nigeria. So I was quite impressed when I went through your background. Oh, he has written a lot of books on Christianity and ethics, a lot of books. I said, well, I will find you. So that was how I found you.
Good. Well, that's